CJ Stroud.
Come on, man. This guy, unbelievable. Like, overcoming all the rookie kind of
Yeah.
ideology. He is unbelievable. And what makes him so fascinating to us and hopefully others as well is that his faith is so strong, and
Yeah.
he's really open about sharing about it, about how it's really impacted him and how it's actually helped him level up, and how whenever things are even going on in his life that it's his faith in Christ that kind of helps him bounce back to where God has given him this platform to use. And I think that's really exciting. I'm wishing him the absolute best. Definitely, that's a jersey I would go out and buy because I'm a huge fan.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I want to say this carefully because I don't want to put other people down, but he seems very genuine in what he's saying and what he's bringing to the table, right? And you don't see that a lot from young guys, right? And I think that's really cool. The faith aspect is huge, and I think it's a great example for young people all over the world. And I think that ties greatly into adversity, kind of our next topic here. The real talk piece of the best part of the pod, I think, is how do you, as a athlete, and let's start. Let's not start with the athlete part. Let's start with the man part, the person part. How do you deal with adversity? Right? We have all sorts of sports heroes, all sorts of stories. We can list about starting from the bottom, coming to the top, um, getting injured, making a recovery, going through addiction, things like that. But in reality, in the world we're living in today, especially as a Christian, there's tons of adversity, and you can mispronounce something, and all of a sudden there's a huge issue about it. Let's talk to yourself. Talk about yourself first. You can choose to talk about it as a pastor or just as a man individually, like whatever you want to start off. I'll let you table that.
Yeah, I guess when you look at overcoming adversity, it's like, it does start off with how you're raised as a man, and as a Christian man, I think first and foremost we know our strength comes from God, right? And
Yeah.
we see what I see around, and I look at college football. I saw Caleb Williams is supposed to be the next Patrick Mahomes, supposed to be the next great quarterback coming up. And what I saw is a post about Caleb Williams after a loss this last Saturday, I believe it was. He was up in the stands, and his mom covered him with his poster, and he's crying to his mom about after the loss. And to me, I was like, a lot of people are looking at this like saying, "Oh, he's so in tune with his emotions. He's got so much ahead of him." And to me, that's like that's not a great way to lead. He's the leader of all these guys. He's the
Yeah.
leader. He's the captain of the team. And you took a loss, but how do you respond? How do you bounce back from that loss? Are you crying to your mama, or are you gonna say, okay, let's get back to work. Let's go do what we got to do to achieve the goals of what we're called to achieve, of what we're able to achieve. And I think that's a lost kind of art in coaching today. I think you may find it hard coaching some of these kids from the Esplanade, because if you go in with a Bobby Knight kind of mentality, chucking chairs and you're screaming,
Yeah.
they don't know how to respond that way. And I think that
Yeah.
starts with the character of how they've been raised, how they've been taught, and what they've learned. I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah. I think great points, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It comes up to partially is how you're raised. There's a nature versus nurture part, but it's also how you as an individual want to push yourself, right? For those of you who don't know, look up Ben Carson, read his story. That's somebody going through adversity and moving to heights he probably couldn't even imagine, right? And yeah, and having a relationship with God as your foundation is doesn't I'm not saying it makes it easier, but it gives you a hope, right? There's gonna be whether you're a Christian or not, there's going to be dark days. You're gonna have adversity. There are gonna be things that don't go your way. Maybe you don't get promoted. Maybe your job puts your boss puts you down. Maybe your spouse leaves you. You know, maybe somebody in your family dies. Something is gonna happen, and you're gonna be hurt. And we're not saying you can't feel. We're not saying you can't work through your emotions, but it's what you do after and through that to move forward if you move forward, which is what we're talking about. There's so many stories where athletes, actors, celebrities uh, go through adversity and they start doing drugs, drinking, and fall off the face of the earth, right? It's way harder to face adversity and to move forward and to progress and to get better and to stand up again that it is it's more of a challenge. And society we live in today, everybody wants things handed to them. Free tuition, free this, free that. And no one wants to work for anything. I saw a TikTok the other day where a girl was crying because she got her bachelor's in commerce in marketing and she couldn't get a $200,000 job. Are you kidding me? You didn't earn that. They don't just hand those out left, right, and center. You have to work hard. You have to dig deep and you have to battle through things, whether it is sports or not, to achieve your goals. And that's why I love playing team sports. I love coaching team sports. And I love incorporating, God into that because it teaches you teamwork. It teaches you understanding value of both leaders and your peers. It teaches you responsibility, structure, and it helps you understand how to deal with problems when life comes at you. In my job, I'm a manager, and to be completely honest, I just base it on everything I've learned playing sports. How to talk to people, how to push certain people, how not to push certain people, how to drive results. I just take what I did on the basketball court when I learned on the basketball court and apply it in life. Now, I'm not really screaming at kids at work where, saying, you did this wrong. I'm not, saying hustle, 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 but it's about how to push somebody and how to drive somebody. And it starts with how do you drive yourself? And if you have an attitude of woe is me, nothing is good, I can't do anything, you're not gonna go you're not gonna go to where you want to be, and you're also not gonna accomplish what God has in store for you.
It's good.
So yeah,
No, that's really good. And to touch on a couple of things you said, like I want to highlight is you see the best athletes, they put in their work in the times where no one's looking, right? They put in their
yeah,
hardest work in the off season, and they put in their work when none of the cameras are on them, and that's when they see their growth. That's how they become so elite at what they do. The same thing actually
yeah,
goes towards your walk with God and working on yourself and working on all that you do. You have to put that work in as well. What are you going to do when no one's watching? What
yeah,
standards are you going to live by? And that's an encouragement for everyone to actually put the work in to build your character, to build your ability to prepare for when adversity comes, so you can stand firm. You can stand on what you believe in. You can stand in what you know and your roots of how to navigate through different difficult situations.
yeah, absolutely. And it ties to what we've been talking about all the way through. Resetting your faith, doing your devotions, and I think there's a story in the Bible where Jesus is talking about don't be like the Pharisees, who pray in the streets and who say, "Hey, well, look at me." It's your prayer closet. And I think it's exactly right. You focus on the things that you need to focus on internally. You don't need to share that with everybody. Don't have to put it on Instagram saying, "Hey, day 42 of reading my Bible." Then you're not doing it for the right reasons. You focus on building your character, building your relationships, building what's important, and the rest will come. Even if you're poor, even if you lose your job, even if you get into a car accident, or even if you have a baby or you do something that's positive, right? Adversity also, there's also positive things that happen. Regardless of it, God is the same or is the same. Whether you're going through a tough time or whether you're going through a good time, He's unchanging. And I can't remember how this came up, but like you should give thanks to God when good things happen. I think that's easy to do. Giving thanks to God when tough times are happening, that's way harder, right? And I encourage everybody listening, when you're facing a difficulty, yes, sit down, emote, get the emotions out, but then don't wallow in that. Wallowing in that, and for those of you who are younger, sitting in it or just thinking about it only, not progressing and not looking at what can I do to get better is going to just hold you back. If you get dumped by a girl, okay, life happens. Maybe go to the gym. Don't watch 6 hours of Netflix. Make one change. Like when, one of the hardest times for me was going through my divorce. And when that first happened, I was shook. I was out. I was depressed. And I'll remember this for the rest of my life. Mom said to me one thing: I don't know how to help you. I know you trust God and you have to work through that, but just start with doing one positive thing in your day. Make your bed. And I sat there and was like, that's stupid. You didn't make my bed. But the next day I got up and I said, okay, I'm going to make my bed. And then from there it was, okay, what's the next thing? Okay, when I have a shower and I'm just going to sit and whatever. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And what you're doing is you're building good habits, but you're also building wins. Your life isn't going to change necessarily immediately. There's going to be some hard work that you have to do. Sometimes God works miracles and addictions are cured and diseases are healed. And all of a sudden, the promotion comes. And we talk about Ernest and his testimonies, right? There's miracles that happen, but there's times where God is using difficult times to teach you something. So they're going to last a little longer. And that's when you got to be faithful. That's where you got to be obedient. That's where you got to build your foundation. So if you are here going through a tough time and you're thinking to yourself, oh, no one knows what I'm going through, there's 7 billion people in this world plus. You're not the only one who feels that way. And I don't say that to diminish how you're feeling. I say that to say you have people who want to help you, you have people who love you, you have a God above who wants to take care of you, but you have to put in some work. And once you start putting in that work, it feels less and less like work. And then all of a sudden, you just turn around one day and be like, wow, this is where I've come. Be encouraged. When you have adversity, God is on your side.
And I'll just echo what you're saying. And I won't give you an example from us. If you want to hear from someone other than us, maybe you just love sports and you want to hear from one of your favorite athletes or one of the athletes that have had such great success. I was so encouraged this last week by a guy named Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins,
Mhm.
who had his ACL torn this year, his whole life just been flipped upside down. He's had a few now, after gathering himself and understanding that there's going to be some changes towards this, probably the rest of his career. He's been sharing about, you know this Sunday, I get to throw to my the only ball I'm going to be throwing is to my kids, and I thank
Yeah,
God for that. I thank God in my suffering, he said, where these challenges come, but I know there's a purpose and plan. He's seen me through it before. He's going to see me through it again. Glory to God. That was his post, and he's done it about 4 times, and it's just been so encouraging to me because
yeah,
imagine having
absolutely.
your whole life turned. Your whole city loves you and expects things from you, and then tear your ACL, but yet he
Yeah,
thanks God in his suffering. Like, I think that's amazing.
yeah, I think that's awesome. Um, is there any kind of practical things you can suggest for someone who's facing adversity to try and do to move forward and build on that?
Yeah, my encouragement is always don't try to overcome it on your own. A lot of people tend to, you know,
Yep.
go to yourself, saying, I'm going to eventually outpower this. And you don't have to do it that way. You got
Yep.
churches that you can connect with, and they have these things called life groups or Bible studies where you can get connected with, where you do life with people, and they'll encourage you, and they'll actually look at the living word where it'll actually speak to you and speak life into you. And I believe that with my whole heart. And so I encourage people to don't just go into solitary. You know, find a community that can support you. And I always encourage you to find a church if you don't go to one. And if you go to one, find a life group where you can actually do life together with someone. Because I'm telling you, it's the most uplifting thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I think that's a great segue to, get involved. It's part of the themes we're talking about here in the last since we started our new season. Um, but if you know somebody who's going through adversity or you yourself are going through adversity, reach out. Don't be silent. Remember, you're not alone. God is there for you. Um, hit us up on our socials, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, for all you old heads who use Facebook. Um, and I'm sure we can find somebody for you to connect with if you need help.
Throughout the whole
Uh,
North America, we can point you to a church
yeah,
that you'll get connected with, that you will feel comfortable with, and so you can message us for
and
sure.
Malaysia.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. It's always private. Um, but on the sports side, YouTube, Twitter, or sorry, X, my bad, X, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, and if you have a good idea of what you want to hear about, reach out. We love to interact with you guys, and it's always more fun that way. So that's all I got, guys.
shout outs before we go.
Yes.
I just want to give a
Yeah.
shout out to our brother from Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac, who's releasing
Yeah.
his clothing brand. He's got his shoes coming out November 15th, and he gave us a nice encouragement on our socials as well. As we've been encouraging him. Shout out to Whitlock, who actually I sent an email to and gave him some encouragement. And we might not see eye to eye on everything, Whitlock, but
Mhm.
I think he's got a purpose and plan for all that he's doing, and I'm excited for what he continues to do to continue to help men be fearless and be real men of God. And one more shout out to it's a pastor. His name's Brian Houston, who's faced much adversity.
Mhm.
As some of you may know his story, you can look him up. But as I was able to encourage him, he actually sent some encouraging words to us as well. So Sports
Oh,
Reverends
that's awesome. That's
is
awesome.
working with some high level people here. So shout outs.
Unite us. I love it.
Let's go.
Unite us, free, fearless, and Mr. Brian Houston. Big shout outs. All right. You guys like, share, and subscribe and get this going.
Peace.
Peace.